You're listening to the Untitled Car Show in partnership with RightFootDown.com. Visit RightFootDown for your daily automotive fix. If you enjoyed today's program, please tell a friend. It's the best way to support this show. If you want to visit the archives, go to YouTube and search for Untitled Car Show. That'll bring you to the archived episodes. If you want to follow the show, just search for Untitled Car Show on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. You can always send an email to the show at untitledcarshow@rightfootdown.com. We're so glad you decided to spend the next hour or so with us. Without further ado, let's get into today's program. I'm still not quite 100% sure what I should say with that intro on, so I'm just going to say tonight's guest is Freddy Tavarish. I always mispronounce that. I apologize. Hernandez. It's Tavarish, not Tavarish. That's like my weird Chicago accent coming out there. How you doing this evening?
I'm pretty good, man. I can't complain. How about you?
I am doing well. I just got headbutted by my daughter right before we began, so if I start sounding funny near the end of this, I'm getting a fat lip. I can already feel it.
That's always good.
Yeah, the dangers of watching small children. So we had you on, about 6 months, maybe 8 months ago on the show, and we weren't doing a segment then that I kind of want to do with you now, since we have you here. So let me see if I can. It'd be great if I had this stuff pulled up before I started digging around. Man alive, I am not doing good here. So, yeah, this is kind of, since we want to be the, I'm looking for my own notes and I can't pull them up fast enough. Since we want to be the podcast of record here because we are so professional, we've decided to kind of work on, I always describe the show as inside the actor's studio for the automotive world with a bit of alcohol thrown in for fun. So in that vein...
That's a good description. That's a pretty good description.
Right, thank you. I've come up with a list of questions. These are mostly off-the-cuff questions to kind of get to the core-based personality of who you are as an automotive enthusiast. So,
all right.
Question first. What is your favorite car?
Oh my God! Come on! This is like this is something that like someone that has no idea. Like they hear that you're a car guy, and then they go, "Oh, okay, so you like cars? What's your favorite?" Like, I don't know. Like, what day of the week is it? What did I have for breakfast today?
This is today as we speak. This is just the first car that enters your head as what is the favorite. I know for all of us it's changing pretty constantly, but there's always one at the moment.
Okay. My favorite car is a 1991 Yugo GV that has the 1.3 liter the fuel injected engine, 67 horsepower, and I just bought one for Mike Balaban, and I love that car so much. It's so awesome. It's like such a death trap, and it's so crappy. And it's a great car.
Well, we're going to have to get back to that. I'm going to have to. That's in the list of questions coming up here in a bit. But so we have you to blame for that. So that's awesome. What is the least favorite?
Sure. Least favorite car is a 1991 Yugo GV. It has a 1. No, okay. Least favorite car? I don't know. Nothing really pops into my mind because I tend to think that there's a lot of cars that could be, they're crappy on the outside, also on the inside, but it's about what you make with them. It's about what you what memories you have with the car. Is it the car that took you to your prom? Even if it is a crappy, Chevy Cavalier. Did you get stuck on the side of the road and have a cool story, or I don't know about like the car that I don't like. I don't know, old smart car. Those suck. So
I mean, everyone has what I like to describe it as like most favorite and least favorite car is, we all have maybe a bad experience with one car in particular, or maybe you were just cut off by, tend to find yourself cut off by something more often than not.
Right.
The smart cars are good example.
Yeah. So I guess my least favorite car in that respect would be I used to have a 2000 BMW 540i 6-speed, and that thing was just an enormous pile of crap. And the reason why, I actually wrote an article about it on Jalopnik a while back called "BMW Engines Are Gigantic Pieces of Shit," and it's such a the engine when it ran really well. The car sounded great, performed great. It was everything you wanted it to be, and then the engine just grenaded itself for no reason other than the fact that the engineers had no idea that these things would last more than 60,000 miles. It's insane amounts of negligence on their part. I think that's my least favorite car. I remember buying it from my friend because he was sort of fed up with it, and I'm like, I work with my hands and I can do work on cars and stuff, and this just completely it beat me. It beat me so bad. So yeah.
I get that. All right, what is the modification trend? So we're talking Brodozer, stance, truck nuts, whatever, that you find is attractive or turns you on, or is just kind of your thing? I guess is good.
So I tend to think that my modification, I don't know, I don't even know if it's a trend, but I like to see cars that are modified but should have came that way from the factory. So nothing like a donk or an amphibious conversion or something. I'm talking about a car that maybe you put an engine in it, like a Mazda Miata with an LS1 or something like that. Like that, it should have been like a one-off factory example that could have been something special. And I think that's my sort of thing with what I'm doing now. All my cars, I'm trying to make it so they look like one-off. Moving forward, that's what all my projects are going to look like. So I just wanted to look like one-off projects from the manufacturer.
I've heard that design, like that kind of style, referred to as pro stock before. I think that's a very apt way to describe it. But yours is like even for like one-off pro stock.
Right. Yeah. So I never heard of pro stock. I've heard of pro touring. Mm-hmm. So pro touring is usually when they take old cars like a '69 Camaro and they resto mod them. That's the thing. But then they also have specific styling elements where they make them into like sort of race inspired, but they're not really race inspired. It makes them into kind of like a GT car, but then you have the kind of jerk off factor that you just want to have the coolest and baddest car on at Cars and Coffee. So I think that's I don't really want that. Like I'd rather have like one of the things I'm trying to do with my Aston Martin is I'm working on getting a supercharger for it, but I don't want anything with like supercharger whine. I want it to be as drivable as it was when I got the car. I just want to have more power, and like if Aston Martin made a car with a supercharger, that's what I'd like.
I get that. That makes sense. So the reverse of that question then is, what modification trend do you find yourself least attracted to?
Least attracted to? Stance, probably. I wrote a thing about Stance on Jalopnik saying that we owe Stance an apology just because it gets people into car culture and gets people who otherwise wouldn't have been car lovers, now they're interested. But that's one thing. But Stance, as far as just a functional way of modifying cars, and like it really is kind of, you're breaking your car, you're making it undrivable. Like at least if you make a car like a track rat or like a drift missile or something, like it has a purpose. A stance, having a stance car takes all the purpose out of the car. It is as purposeful as it is, just sitting in a garage as it is sitting anywhere else. So, yeah, I don't really, I don't really like any of that.
I get that because when you describe that, it takes away like the purpose of the car. You'll never see a scenario where a stance car comes into its own. Like even the donk guys occasionally get like when downtown like L.A. floods or something, you see the guys in the donks like laughing at everyone else. You're never gonna get that with the stance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no situation where it's like you're in a parking lot and I don't know, like what situation would you come up with? Because you'll hydrolock it at any sort of rain showers. You're afraid of speed bumps. The tire wear is crazy. Like what would you use it for?
The only thing I'm coming up with is maybe if you have ultraviolet underglow, you could use it to like check crime scenes really fast. That's about all I could get from that.
Yeah. You could probably do that, but it doesn't. That's not necessarily stance. It might be just a tuner culture from the early 2000s, a la Fast and the Furious. So, yeah, that could also be a thing.
Yeah, that was my award for Father of the Year before we started the episode. I'm like, ooh, Fast 5 is on basic cable. So me and my 2-year-old watched way too much of Fast 5 this afternoon.
So Fast Five is basically where you realize that they're now just terrorists. Like they're now just international terrorists. They're not street racing anymore. They're like robbing banks in Rio de Janeiro and driving vaults through it's insanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you had the same problem I did watching that, where it's the outside is a new Charger or Challenger, and the inside's still the old steering wheel and interior. It's like, if you're going to do this, just do it all the way. Don't put the new with the old and keep going back and forth. It took me out of the movie when they had the giant.
So if you notice, they had when they did the reveal of the Chargers, they were brand new Chargers, and then when they did when they did like right in the next scene, they had like a bunch of old ones, and they thought that nobody would notice. Like it stuck out like a sore thumb.
Exactly. Yeah, it was like, we know, and I mean, maybe some people like who know next to nothing about cars wouldn't, but even they probably like, that car is different because those cars look night and day different, especially on the inside.
Yeah, I mean the taillights were completely different.
That is probably, for a movie based around the premise that you're going to have car enthusiasts watch it, probably the most glaring, like, fuck them, they'll never pay attention to this, like, underestimation of their intelligence in the history of cinema. I'm saying. I'm calling it out now.
The original Fast and Furious, remember that had like a ton of continuation errors as far as cars. You had the shifting 7 times in the Mitsubishi Eclipse. You had the Jesse going from a Jetta to a Civic on the interior shots. You had like it was. There's so many gaffes in that movie. It's just I love watching it and just and finding out all the little things that shouldn't exist.
And I like too that we could probably talk about the Fast and Furious for the rest of the evening, but we got important questions to get to here. So.
Oh, nice.
So.
Let's get to those.
Yeah. Well, we're still not done with our questions here. We got another one for you. What car do you dread to be stuck behind at a red light?
Car I prefer to be stuck behind at a red light.
Dread to be stuck behind at a red light.
Dread.
Yes.
Let's see. What's a base model like Cadillac? Like a Cadillac ATS or not even. What's the base model Cadillac? The crossover. It's escaping me right now.
It is escaping every enthusiast. That was a test. Like, you didn't realize you gave yourself your own test. Yeah.
Does it even exist? Let's say, because it would be one of those. Let's say Cadillac at ATS, whatever. Yeah. A base model ATS, Mary Kay edition. Like that would be it.
Oh my god! Yeah, that is a good one. I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. What?
Yeah, because basically you know that the person in there driving the car is probably working their ass off. to make payments on this thing that they basically lied to them about leasing, and they're not top of their region at all, and it's not going well, and I don't think they're going to be getting out of an intersection with any sort of speed. I think it's just going to be, kind of humdrum.
100% agree. What automotive sound or noise do you love?
So I just drove a Jaguar F-Type SVR for a few days, and I love the back crackle that thing gives, like at every downshift and upshift. It's absolutely. I'm gonna have a video about it coming next week, and that thing is it's insane. It is so impossibly loud, and it always gets attention, and it's like. When the dentists go down to Sturgis with all their choppers and whatever, and like for a day they're like, they're Hell's Angels. That's pretty much what it's like every day with a Jaguar F-Type.
What automotive noise do you hate?
Let's see.
It could be something.
A coolant tank. Yeah.
I was gonna say it could be something.
So
I'm sorry. There's a little delay here, so we're trying to work it out, people.
Oh yeah. This is like Fox News. You keep talking and talking and talking, and it's like, all right, you go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead. It'd probably be the sound of a rod bearing, rod bearing. Basically, spinning on the crank. I think that would be really, really. That's the sound that I hate, because that means engine tear down. That means a lot of money and time spent fixing whatever car you're unfortunate to be in.
That is a good one. So there's a couple more, but I kind of want to get, because that went a little longer than I thought it would. I kind of want to get to some of the other stuff. So it's been a little while since we talked, like we said earlier. So thanks again for coming back on the show.
No problem.
I have to know, how is life with the Aston?
Okay, so I just I'm actually working on it right now. When we're done with this, I'm going to go finish up what I was doing. And life with the Aston is fine. It's actually very reliable. I drive it once every few days, something like that. I have a lot of sort of fast sweeping corners around where I live. And it's the perfect car for that. It's a perfect car for if you want to just kind of, like Jeremy Clarkson said, if you want to just figure stuff out, you go for a drive and clear your head. That's what I use it for. But it's been, knock on wood, a really good car. I paid $36,000 for this thing, and this is literally the price of a loaded Camry, and nobody expects it to be that cheap. It sounds amazing. I mean, it could be a little bit faster, but I'm working on that. Handles great, 50-50 weight distribution, and it's just an experience every time you drive it. So yeah, life in the Aston is great.
And I am fascinated with everything you're doing. You've been putting out a lot of great videos. You got the Aston. You did some work on the garage itself. You got a 4-post lift in there. You got.
Yep.
I love too. Your garage came with like the perfect little cutout to put your Aston up on the lift. I mean, was that planned or did that just happen to be the case?
No, that just happened. Like to be honest with you, we bought the house. We liked the house so much, and then I didn't even think about how tall the garage ceiling was when I bought the house, and then it was just a happy accident that it was just tall enough that I could fit a lift in there. Because a lot of other houses that we looked at, they had really low ceilings, but they had more space on the floor, so that would have been not as ideal. But that little, like, there's a little cove right above where the lift is, and the Aston, it allows me to get it maybe a foot extra if I park it right. So I mean, I haven't crunched it yet, so that's a good thing.
I mean, you're basically living the automotive enthusiast dream life here. You got your own lift, you got your own, high performance sports car in the Aston Martin. You got your Mercedes S-Class rolling around out there. I mean, you're living the good life down there in Florida. So everyone else is jealous of you, and you're making some wonderful videos. It's almost like those terrible videos a while ago with the guy trying to show off his Lamborghini that he probably didn't actually own. It's like that, but it's real, so it's crazy.
Are you talking about Ty Lopez?
I don't know. I get 5 seconds into the thing, and I always skip ad. So maybe.
Oh, so you're talking about here in my garage, and then the reason I bought this Lamborghini was not with money, but with knowledge or something, some bullshit like that.
Yeah. Talk about that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not to his level. I don't think I'll ever get to that level where I'm just professionally telling people a bunch of platitudes that they want to hear. No, I like doing this stuff. Whether people are jealous of me or not, that doesn't really I don't think that's necessarily the case. But I hope that's not the case, because believe me, I'm a complete slob, and all my cars are cheap, and so I don't think I'm the envy of anybody. But I'm just having fun. I like to maximize my experiences, and I live out here in the sticks in Florida, and I kind of like it. It's a lot of peace and quiet, and it's far away from everything, and I can just chill with my cars and work on them and do whatever I want.
It's to the chilling on cars, working on cars. You've been putting out a lot of video stuff. You said you're gonna on Twitter. You're gonna be pushing out a lot more video stuff. What can we expect to kind of see, and what is going to be kind of the release date of everything?
All right, so tomorrow, or rather today, no, it's still going to be tomorrow. So tomorrow, from the day that we're recording, so this would be already in the past.
Yes.
Then I will. In fact, I have made an announcement that I'm going to do YouTube full time. And full time means I'm going to have a regular schedule, and people can expect things from me, because some of my videos have been well received, and some of them haven't been well received, and I think it's because I need to hone in on what exactly my audience wants. And I think I haven't been doing a good job at being consistent. I've done here and there, and when I'm traveling and stuff, but I want to make sure that people get what they want, and I want to share whatever cool stuff I do with them. So I'm gonna do a lot more build videos, because I think that's really what draws people to the channel. Yeah. I'm gonna do just stuff that's just insider mechanical knowledge, that sort of thing, and maybe a car review or two, but that's not going to be the main focus on the channel. It's just going to be, just build videos, me working on cars, and I might even bring back Art of the Flip. Art of the Flip was a sort of format for a Jalopnik article in which I would buy and sell used cars, and then flip them for a profit. And I think doing that in video would be really good. And I've been toying around with the idea of I buy a car, fix it and flip it, and whatever I make, I'll just whatever I make after cost, I'll just donate that to charity. That way, it'll keep me honest. It'll keep me I don't really need to, I don't care about how much money I make, but I'd rather, it'll go to a good cause, and I think that'll kind of stir some viewership as well.
That's an interesting idea. Almost like Wheeler Dealers in a weird way, where but instead of I always feel bad when I watch Wheeler Dealers, because you know how much they paid for it and worked on it, and then they take that money and well, if it only cost you this much, and really you're getting paid by the TV show, maybe you should give the guy a car for cheaper. But that's never what Mike Brewer does. But in your case, it would be going towards something worthy, which is a good idea. I'm very fascinated.
Well, I mean, Wheeler Dealers is a fantastic show, yeah. But it's just gotten to the point where it's so you have let's say you have a TVR, and you get it for really, really cheap. In the UK, they got it for really, really cheap, but it needs a new frame. Now they got a frame for cheap, but the man hours that it takes, it's like 200 man hours. And then like they never factor that into the price. It's like, yeah, but you made like $1,000, but it's taking 200 hours to do it. It's like it's insane.
You know,
And then now they're doing.
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm always watching a show going like, I feel so like torn because you're not paying for, the person buying the car is not paying for the labor that the guy put in. But then if you just factor the parts, then he's overpaying for just the parts. But then Mike Brewer and Ed China, they're getting paid by Discovery, so it's like I don't know how to feel. I'm always very conflicted at the end. So.
Well, I mean, they got to make a show, but I understand that it hinges upon the fact that like, oh yeah, I don't think it's a how-to. I don't think it's anything like oh, you can do this too. I just think it's sort of chronicling because people love to see going from nothing to something. That's basically what people want to see. I don't think it's like this is a realistic depiction of what you can see on Craigslist, because it hinges on the fact that you need a TV show to get all this done. You know, like, oh, so you buy a car for $5,000 and you can actually sell it for $20,000, but you also need a 5,000 square foot workshop, and you need like a camera crew, and you need all like that's the insane part. What's even funnier is that in wheeler dealers, like they basically get asking price for like these worthless pieces of crap. Like they had some car that was a AMG Hammer clone, and they got like, I don't know, like $30,000 for it. And I'm looking around, like I'm in I do a lot of research for cars like that, and I'm like, there's no way that car has like 150,000 miles. Who's smoking all that crack that could give him 30 grand for that piece of crap? So it's I don't know. So sometimes they just sold a Maserati bi-turbo that had an electric conversion for like $25,000.
I wonder if maybe it's just people want to be on TV that bad, and that's why they do it.
Maybe. I mean, that's always a factor with people. I don't know if that's necessarily the price that they get, but again, it's not like it's entertainment, so you know, who cares? It's a fun show. I like what they do. I'd love to meet them at some point. I hear Ed China is a little bit of a weirdo, but that's kind of, you know, that's kind of how it goes.
Well, it's sniffing all those fumes in the garage. You'll get there one day yourself. Well, So you're working on the cars. You're going to be putting out a lot more videos. Like you said, you're going to be doing the YouTube stuff, making that the primary focus. So then,
yeah,
like we expect a lot of build videos. A lot of work on the Mercedes, a lot of work on the Aston. Are you going to be working on other stuff as well, kind of pulling in other projects, or what are you planning on? You said you're going to be working on
Yes. So I have a few cars now that I can work on, but I want to start another project. So the Mercedes, that's the ultimate. I'm calling it the ultimate daily driver build. That's going to get done first and foremost, because I've been, you know, it's like pulling teeth with that car. It's like there's rust repair, and there's bumper repair, and there's like oil leaks, and it's just kind of nonstop, and it's grating, and I've sort of lost interest. Not really. I mean, I really do like the car, but I just want to finish that so I can get onto something really interesting, with something I really, really want to do. So I'm thinking, well, right now the cars that I do have, I have a 92 Lexus SE300 that has a 1JZ swap and a 5-speed, and that has like graffiti all over it, and it's kind of like a drift car. So I want to make that into a drift car. But I also have a 87 944 Turbo that I'm doing a full restoration on, and yeah, I mean those two cars are the ones that I have now, and also the Aston that's going to get some upgrades. But the car that I really, really want to do is I want to get a 03 to 06 Mercedes SL55 AMG, and I want to make that into the very first manual SL55 AMG, and I think I can do it. I'm pretty sure that I've been doing a lot of research, and I think it's possible. I just have to get some work done. But they're super cheap. They're like, you can find a good one for like 15 grand, and that car was knocking on the door of like 150, 180 not too long ago, and it has like 500 horsepower, supercharged V8, and hardtop convertible, and it's just an awesome car. And I'd love that car if it was manual, and I think that's what I want to do.
That brings me to a random question I have. Do you think Mercedes depreciates further than any other brand, with the possible exception of Maserati? Because their cars just go from like 6 figures to like 4 figures, like no one's business.
Yeah. So they definitely do. Mercedes, I don't know. Well, I mean, Maserati would be a good example, but what else does that? No, I can't think of anything else. The reason why Mercedes depreciates so heavily is because they make way too many of them, and they make way too many of the really high dollar cars, and they know that people are just going to lease them, and they're just going to return them after 2 years, and then they get the next shiny new thing because they have all this technology. Meanwhile, I bought a 04, 05, I can't remember, S600, so it's a twin turbo V12. And I bought that for $7,000, and it had 69,000 miles on it. That car, brand new, was $145,000. So I bought it for $7,000. Like that's crazy. And it had a $4,000 executive seater option. It had heated and cooled and massaging seats and all this awesome stuff. But it's just. People don't want it. People think it's like a nightmare. People think it gets a really bad rap, and that's why these things are so cheap. So the only exception I can say is a car that I've been looking at for a little while is a Mercedes-AMG GT, and that car is just so like I love the way that car looks, and it looks like it hasn't depreciated at all. Like a brand new one is 130, and a used one is 130. So.
Yeah, it's weird that class of car has just like stayed right where it is. I wonder if maybe it'll just reach this point of critical mass when they build too many of them, but I don't think they're planning on building that many every year, so I don't know if that'll ever happen. It's a very pretty car.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I've been thinking about cars in that price range for a little while, and like it's around the 120 range, and I'm thinking either AMG GT, a Aston Martin DBS manual, maybe a Porsche 997 GT3. There's a lot like if you up the ask a little bit more, you get like a McLaren 570S or a 570 GT, and I just drove one of those through Europe like a little while ago. And those things are just phenomenal. So I mean, that's sort of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. I was working on a $700 Volvo. I'm going to put a Nissan motor into different levels here. So.
Hey, I mean, listen, it's fun is fun, Like, what are you going to say?
Yeah, no, it is. That kind of brings me to a roundabout thing. So we talked about the Yugo. I actually didn't get to see when Balaban did the whole Yugo thing because I was on the 24 Hours of Lemons rally. So since you had a hand in that, now I have to ask you. This will all come back around. Watch how this works. This is professional podcasting here. But like I have to know why a Yugo for Balaban. I mean, besides the fact that it's him and that kind of is the ideal car for him, maybe I guess.
Yes. So here's the thing. Balaban is deputy editor of Jalopnik, and he lives in Brooklyn, and he doesn't have a car. So he's pretty much the quintessential sort of hipster douchebag journalist that doesn't have a car but lets people know what they should buy. And I thought that wasn't right. I thought that it's not right that somebody with sort of authority. And he writes car reviews, and he has owned cars before, but he just doesn't own one now. I figured I could fix that. So I wanted to have him, learn what it is to actually drive a car, actually own a car in New York. So I tried to buy him a just like the best car I could, but it had to be like the best worst car. So like there was a lot of car. Like there was maybe I think I was looking at like a '92 SL 350. Like what's the 320? It was like super beat up, like really really. It was like dents on every panel and rust and stuff, but it was like $1,000. But I didn't get that one, and there was some other cars like some Luxo barges, some some '70s Malays era land yachts, and I thought that was like a little on the nose, especially for New York. You can fall in love with that. But then I saw this Yugo on for sale in New Jersey, and I'm like, bingo, that's the one. That has to be the one. And when I got there, actually I was in Florida when I bought it, and I had my friend check it out. So he went out there for me, and the car didn't run, because of course it didn't. In the advertisement it said runs and drives great. When he gets there, the car runs like absolute crap, and then it stopped running. So when I got to New Jersey, I wanted to check out the car. I had already paid for it, I think, at this point. And the car still wasn't running, and the guy was like kind of, he was telling me up and down that, yeah, I'm going to get the car running, so I had to go and install a fuel pump into this car before I drove it home. And this car, well, I mean, the guy that I bought it from, he's a character as well. He bought all the old stock from Yugo, from a failed Yugo dealership in New Jersey. So he had this huge garage with like 7 Yugos, and like 3 of them were like pristine condition. He had 2 convertibles. He had a race car from Grassroots Motorsports. It was nuts. So he had 2 parts cars, and one was the one that he was selling me, but it had like all the parts that were running. So I get to this guy's house, and the car doesn't run, and we do some troubleshooting, and we take off the fuel line, and he runs the fuel pump, and he was like, yeah, there's some there's some fuel coming out. I'm like, dude, this is a fuel injected engine. There should be a fuel like shooting out, because it's it's a fuel pump. It has to get pressurized. He was like, oh. So I had to change the fuel pump out for one that he had lying around, and it's like complete grotty mess. And the car ran. He towed it to my house, and then I drove it to New York, which was probably the sketchiest ride I've ever. Like, I was convinced that I was going to die, because I had 0 seat time in this car before, and this car had exposed wires in it. I had no idea if the wheels, the lug nuts were on tight. I had no idea if the engine almost overheated. Like, it gets to the point where it's almost in the red, but it's like not there yet. So I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. So you just drive faster, or just rev the engine or something. So yeah, I gave it to Balaban. He loved it. People loved it. If you go to New York, and you'll have people like on bicycles, or people just basically stopping in the street and saying, hey, it's a Yugo. I love those cars. Or, oh, wasn't that the worst car in the world? Or, I can't believe that thing is still running. And yeah, it's a great little car. We had 4 people from Jalopnik. We went out to dinner, and 4 of them went to dinner in that car, and I went in the taxi with some other guys, and I get a call from Balaban saying the car doesn't start, and I had to tell him how to kind of like hit the starter with a piece of wood that was in the back. So you have to smack the starter, and he was like, oh, it worked. So yeah, I mean, it's already, yeah, the first day it was already making stories.
Yeah, I'm surprised it doesn't have a crank as a backup, crank starter to back up everything, because it is such a unreliable mess. So.
Well, that was on the deluxe model. I wasn't that lucky.
It's almost hipster chic in of itself, the Yugo. I mean, I kind of love it, and it fits Balaban so well. I was like, that's the perfect car for him. It's an interesting little vehicle. Yeah. So I'm curious. So I saw it was on the Lemons Rally, and you're the unfortunate first victim of what I'm going to be doing for a while now. So I took the Volvo out, and I'm sure you know, Steph Schrader was on the rally as well, and she managed to finish it because she borrowed someone else's car. I am trying to challenge every other automotive journalist organization. So I don't know if you want to I'll be talking to the big Gawker boss hopefully next week, which will be 2 weeks from now or something like that when people are listening to this. So I don't know, do you next year the East Coast Rally is going to happen again? Is that something where you might be interested in racing against myself and the crew from Right Foot Down and maybe another couple of organizations that I'm talking to right now?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I'd love to do something like that, but we just have to see what dates they are and because listen, there are a lot of really cheap, crappy cars in Florida that I can get for next to nothing and just make into whatever the hell I want. And literally, I can drive it every day here in Florida because there's no state inspection. Like, nobody cares what you drive. So yeah, that would be great. Where is the East Coast Rally?
The official map hasn't been announced yet for next year, but it'll probably be around the same from Pennsylvania down to Alabama, most likely. So
cool.
Yeah.
So I just got finished watching the Roadkill episode about the Lemons Rally, and it was pretty cool. I saw the Reliant. It wasn't a Reliant Robin. It was a Reliant.
Scimitar.
Crap, I can't remember what it was.
Reliant.
No, it wasn't. The Scimitar. Scimitar is a four-wheeled one. They had a three-wheeled one, but it's like a Reliant something. It was like the luxury version of that. Regal. There we go. There we go. Yeah. So they had the Regal. They had the Roadkill guys had this like kind of chopped Lincoln. Yep. I saw Steph Schrader's car. She had the 944, I believe, right?
Yeah. Do you remember they're sitting in a parking lot and there's a blue Volvo parked next to them?
Yeah, I saw it. Yep.
That's my car.
Yep. Definitely. Oh, awesome.
Yeah. We broke down.
It looked like a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, no, that we broke down, and because I broke down, now I feel like I have to challenge everyone else to prove that it's difficult, even though Steph managed to finish it. So, yep.
So I mean, how does a Volvo break down? That's like basically cracking a screen on a Nokia phone. Like, how does that happen?
Well, first and foremost, I blame the organizer who went, well, I can't give you points for unreliability as a Volvo. It's going to last for forever. There was crankcase pressure pushing on. There was two O-rings that block where the distributor goes from the oil and everything spinning around inside the engine. So apparently the odometer broke a long time ago in this vehicle, sometime in around 96, and it's so apparently around the 300,000 mile mark, the bearing and the O-ring tend to let go, and that's what happened. And we were just never able to get it not to blow by oil into it, and we ended up needing a new cap and a new distributor. But where we broke down in West Virginia, we weren't able to get either, because it was like, you driving around in them fancy foreign cars? Shoot, we ain't got parts for that down here. Like, crap. So, I mean, like, the closest refuge we had was a guy in West Virginia who was 2 hours away who might know a guy who might have the part, who might be able to get it to us. It was like, I think it's time just to call it quits, hop on the U-Haul, and just haul this thing back to Maryland with our tail between our legs. So, because by that point we already.
Do you have to haul it back? Can't you just leave it there and let the ground reclaim it?
That was tempting. The local sheriff suggested rolling it onto the railroad tracks and letting the train take care of it, which I was okay with at the time. But I'm happy to have it back because I'm trying to get more horsepower into it, so it'll be slightly more awesome next year, and try it again. So I think it'd be fun. I think a lowered Volvo with 200 horsepower with a manual transmission with no interior, I think that sounds pretty badass.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. But hold on, did you say a local sheriff told you to put a car in train tracks?
Allegedly told us to put it. on railroad tracks. He's like, the train's coming now.
Because isn't that like insanely? That's like insanely irresponsible. Like you just derail a train.
He also offered us moonshine, so if that helps, like you want some moonshine?
Are you sure this guy was a sheriff? Like he just didn't have like a sheriff's badge that he just stole from somebody?
So the little town we broke down in, it was the town hall and police department were the same trailer. So that's to tell you how small this place was. Like the hotel we were staying.
It was also the general store and the church and the courthouse and.
There was a hotel that was crappy as hell. There was that little community center, a bar with 2 meth heads because we tried going inside, and then there was a gas station and a Napa Auto Parts, and that was all there was to this town. Like what the hell is?
Awesome.
I mean, that's West Virginia in a nutshell, I suppose. Yeah, so.
Oh yeah.
I think you should race the Aston Martin, though, because I looked at the way they dole out points. The Aston Martin might score decent points, but maybe that's something to talk about later, closer on to it. So we're doing videos.
Well, I mean, in a Lemons rally, in a Lemons rally, or just like a regular thing.
In a Lemons rally, because it's British, so it gets points that way. The way they dole out points is the beginning and the end. You get points in the beginning for the crappiness of the car. But the way they do it up, I was looking at it, and like you get points for like a British car, you get points for a car that's older than a couple of years, so that your car might actually make more points than the crappy Volvo did, which would be hilarious to me to show up with that. Now you do get points for overall crappiness of car and driver, which might help. So you might have to doll yourself up a little bit.
I don't know. I think you give me too much credit.
Yeah, it's bad when you score more points for being crappy than the car scored points for being crappy, and then you look at that Volvo and go, I might need to fix some things that go on with my life. So
yeah.
I feel like I've totally derailed us in my quote unquote professional little rant there. So I have a couple questions here from Opposite Lock, which I figured we might want to talk about. We have one from ELULY, and he says, how do you feel about to have the word invented, Tavarist, when someone buys a higher-end car, mega cheap, and instantly has to wrench on it? How do you feel for coining that term?
I actually don't think I've coined that term. I think somebody, some of the Opposite Lock members coined that term for me. That's very nice. I like it. I'm not sure that it'll be common vernacular ever, but it's nice. It's nice to know. It's kind of cool. It's better than. I assume it's better than being Jared Fogeled. That's kind of.
He's come up in way too many conversations.
As far as. I think so. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it, unless it turns into something like super weird or super off-putting. Then I might have something to say. But yeah, otherwise, go ahead. I'm sure that if you make a certain type of video with yourself standing behind a car and talking about its obvious flaws or features, you can call that being Doug DeMuro'd, or you can call it just talk about CarMax or something. And I mean, these are sort of archetypes and these are sort of formats, and I have no problem with it.
And same person, different question. Do you own any die-cast cars?
No, I don't own any die-cast cars. I actually want to get into it. I'd like to own die-cast versions of my own cars. The problem is they're hard to get because the only die-cast Aston Martin V8 Vantages, or Aston Martin Vantages rather, are V12 ones, and I don't want a V12 one because I don't have a V12 one. I don't see any S-Class die-casts. I don't see any Lexus SC die-casts. I mean, I'll look around for them, but I'd love to have those sort of on my desk. What I have on my desk now is I have a Porsche 911 GT3 Lego Technic set. So I have that just sitting next to me all the time. It's cool. I mean, I built it. It took like 12 hours to do. And I love that.
Here's another one from Lanyot225. Is the crank pulley that you replaced on your S500 the same across all S classes and therefore prone to the same failure? Because my S600 vibrates a lot from a lot of different places, and I'm wondering if it's a good place to start.
So that's a good question. So the vibration issue on the S classes is pretty notorious, and I didn't get rid of it 100%. Because it stems from a lot of different places. One could be the crank pulley, which is the most common, and I do believe that the 430 and the 500 they share it. I'm not sure if the 600 does, just because it has a different belt assembly, but I could be wrong. So anybody listening, they should just kind of look at different parts numbers and see if they match up. But there's a crank pulley. There could be a misfire because there are 16 spark plugs. There could be a problem in the motor mounts, which sometimes need to be replaced, and it's also a pain in the ass. There could be a problem with the driveline vibration. Like there's a coupling. There's not a viscous coupling, but a rubber coupling for the drive shaft that could make a vibration. So there's a lot of different avenues for vibration to occur, and if this guy has a 600 that's having that problem, I think it's a good plan to start. It's a good place to start for to look at that crank pulley. It's actually pretty easy to take off, and I think I bought it. I bought an OEM one. There's a ton of like remanufactured Chinese ones, and I didn't want any of those. I just wanted like an OEM Mercedes because I knew that it made it at least like 80 or 100,000 miles, and I know that the quality is going to be relatively consistent. So I just went with that.
A Tyler Hoover is asking if he can have another turkey wrap.
All right, so Tyler Hoover, he has a very good YouTube channel called Hoovy's Garage, and he's also on autotrader.com/oversteer. He works with Doug DeMuro, and I spent some time with him at Amelia Island, and I met him and his girlfriend, and yeah, he's a guy with the Apollo 911, the Porsche 911, the 996 that has like 243,000 miles. So we did a little bit of a car swap at the end of the day. I drove that car, he drove my Aston, and he's a really good guy. I gave him. We went up to my room that Jag was kind enough to give me, and we ordered some room service, and he got a turkey wrap, and I guess that's what he's referring to. He said, "Can I have another one?" And the answer is no, because when I pay, I'm extremely stingy. So no, you cannot have a turkey wrap.
We actually had him on the show a couple episodes ago, and he's a fantastic guy. I see you're hanging around with a lot of, it seems like, a more video production guys. I know you got the Aston Martin from Doug. You talked to Hoovy a bit. You obviously the Smoking Tire guys, and you've kind of been around a little bit. Is there something you've kind of picked up or direction you're going to go with all the YouTube stuff you're going to be putting out?
Yeah, so when I was in Europe a few weeks ago, I went to a McLaren dinner, and there was I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they're like UK YouTubers that do vlogs and stuff. One guy is Seeing Through Glass, another guy is Supercars of London, and the other guy was Mr. JWW, and they're all pretty big YouTubers. They're all pretty prolific. And they have all these, supercars, and they do all these sort of adventures with them. And I just sort of talked to them about what it is that makes their channel special, and how do you kind of develop it from, you kind of blow on that ember to make it into a fire. And they told me that it's just about honing in on your audience and making sure that you know what they want, and then just giving that to them, and then kind of working. If you get to a certain amount of subscribers and views, then you can work out brand deals, and you can work with companies and stuff, and that's how you actually start making a real living. Like Doug DeMuro, he is he's on fire at every single video that he has. It goes like there's like 500,000 to 1,000,000 views. It's insane. He's really honed in on that, and Tyler Hoover, he's also on the way there because he's found a really good niche, and he's having like a really good growth potential. So for me, I've learned that you just got like it's about quantity and also quality. There has to be a balance between them, but it has to be. I think it's more towards quantity. Like people just want to have regular uploads of stuff, and make sure that because otherwise they just forget you. Like if you're off the internet for 2 weeks, like you're basically dead. So. It's nuts. So that's what I'm taking from that, and that's one reason why I want to kind of give a lot of effort to YouTube, and one reason why I'm kind of doing a lot of stuff this weekend because I'm going to Mexico for 10 days with my family, and I won't be able to do any car work, so I have to kind of backlog everything. Because if I announce, I'm going full time on YouTube. Oh, by the way, I won't have videos for 2 weeks. Like that doesn't make any sense. So it's been a challenge.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time out to come up here and talk with us about what's going to happen. And that's why you had the Twitter name change. So you went from Repeat Online over to just the real Tavarish. Like keep putting an R in there where it belongs.
Yeah. It's totally. Listen, you can call me whatever the hell you want. I don't care. The reason why I did that, and I did that on Twitter and Facebook, and I don't know if I did it on Instagram. I don't post anything on there anyway. But nobody knows what a PETA Online is. A PETA Online was a website that I wanted to put more time and effort into. It's just with all my projects now, I just don't have the time for it. So I'd rather not confuse people, and I'd rather build up a brand that is just uniquely me. And then if I resurrect the PETA Online or actually develop it into something, then it can be something organic versus, me just calling myself that and then it not really meaning anything. So, I mean, nobody knows what the hell it means now. And I'd rather have things make sense for a lot of people.
Wait, let me see if I can remember. It's Automotive Performance Index something A.
There we go. You got it. 100%. 10 out of 10. It was Automotive Performance Index Database and Answers. It took. I can't even remember. So that's how much it matters. That's how much it matters. How much the acronym stands. What the acronym stands for. But it's a project. I'd love to see the project go forward, but it requires a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I don't have any resources for that right now. So I just have way too much on my plate.
Real fast, we're kind of coming up on time, and I don't want to take too much away from what you're doing on the Aston tonight. But 2 questions I have to know. Is there any prep you do before you go do the videos? I mean, I'm sure you plan out what you're going to do. Is there anything maybe a little silly that you do before you start shooting the videos?
I stare at myself at the mirror, like in the mirror, for 45 minutes, and then put lipstick on, but not on my lips. I make that a sticking point. No, I don't know. Nothing really. If you look at my videos, they're not particularly well written, or if you look at something like Doug's videos, Doug writes a script, or Tyler Hoover writes a script. And you can tell that they have a beginning, middle, and end. And me, I'm just trying to, like, if stuff goes bad, it goes bad, and stuff doesn't make sense, and sometimes I ramble, and I try to do it off the cuff just because I'm lazy. And I think and I'd love to get better at off the cuff stuff. I'd love to get better at, I remember somebody told me, like, oh, you look so natural doing it. I'm like, dude, you have no idea how freaked out I am every single time I press record. Every single time, I have no idea what I'm going to say. And sometimes I say stuff that really, really doesn't make any sense. Like, no human should ever hear me say this. But, it's just for me, it's just practice on for just off the cuff sort of content.
It's, to use an analogy, there's some kids who, when they're in class, they write out everything, they study hard for the test, and then there's some kids who just cram at the last possible second, and it's not a slight on them for doing that. That's just the way it is. And I enjoy watching your videos. I mean, sometimes you can tell there's a little bit of a, crap, what am I going to talk about? But it's never disingenuous. It's like at the you see, now I'm having the same issue. The video with the post was a good example of like, here's the post, here's what it looks like. What else was I going to tell? Oh, this is how the lift works. Here's how the 2-post lift works. You know, I like it. It's very honest. It's very to the point, and I don't think anyone else could do it the way you do it, which is a good thing. And I think, you know, if anyone's not subscribed to you on YouTube, they definitely should go and do it today. You know, it's at Tavarish, and it's Tavirish, right? I'm not screwing that up.
No, well, it's almost there. It's youtube.com/Tavarish. It's Tavarish. But yeah, you can look up. You know, I like getting subscribers. It's great, but I think the honesty thing that you were talking about, I think that's kind of paramount. People don't like me. That's fine too. I don't really care. I just want to share the cool stuff I do with cars with the rest of the world. So yeah, the more I can do that, the more I'll be happy.
I really enjoy that in your videos too, because you tell the people, you know, if you don't like this, you know what to do. There's a thumbs down button. You know, just let me know. And it's
right.
It's very nice to see. You know, a lot of people, a lot of YouTubers are like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a coworker, tell everyone you know. You know, everyone needs to watch this. It's like, no, you're very honest about it. This is what you do. This is, you know, if you don't like it, hit the thumbs down button. If you like it, hit the thumbs up and tell someone. And I think that's going to serve you well. And it's such a good product you're putting out. I can't wait to see, you know, what it's going to turn into over the next year as you kind of grow and evolve what you're doing with it. I'm very excited to hear that it's going to be a much more frequent, much more, you know, dedicated thing than what it once was. So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, hopefully I can keep that promise and hope not kill myself with this schedule. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited to see what happens. Also, since we're going to be airing this in the near future, I will be doing a cheap car challenge with another YouTuber called B is for Build. B is for Build. He does. Yeah, his name is Chris, and he's out in Oregon. And I'm going to be doing a cheap car challenge where we drive. We get rear-wheel drive cars. He gets one from Copart. I get one from Craigslist, and we meet up in LA. And we're going to do all this sort of, you know, challenges and see who comes out the victor.
I'm very excited to see that. Is that more of what we can expect too, more of the challenge stuff coming up?
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I spoke to Chris and he was really on board with it. So I'd love to do that with more YouTubers. I'm sure that I can do that. The only issue is that there's not a lot of builders on YouTube. Like, there's a lot of car guys on YouTube, you know, like the David Pattersons and Rob Ferretti's and Rob Dahm or something. But there are not a lot of people that actually build things with their own hands. So that's going to be a little bit of a, you know, maybe it's a good thing that it's a smaller niche. But you know, as far as collaborations goes, I don't know, it's kind of slim pickings.
Well, maybe there's a couple. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. I'm very excited. I really, you know, as a fan of your work, your written work, your video work, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I don't want to take too much time away from the precious Aston Martin here, so we'll kind of wrap this up at the moment. So people can find you online, on Twitter, on Facebook, and are both at The Real Tavarish?
Yeah, at the Real Tavarish. It's on Twitter, and on Facebook it's going to be facebook.com/AskTavarish.
Okay. And then one more time, the YouTube account is
Tavarish. That would be Tavarish.
All right, and if you want to read your work, it's still over at Jalopnik, right? They haven't kicked you out the door yet?
They have not kicked me out the door, even though I've been it's I'm kicking and screaming to stay in there, and they keep telling me we're going to kick you out, but I've kind of glued myself to the seat, so they can't do anything.
You want a Yugo? You want a Yugo? Who wants a Yugo?
Exactly. Yeah, you want to. I'll take away Yugo privileges real quickly.
All right, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Freddie. I'm going to say
yes.
Goodbye to you.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm going to say goodbye to you off air. Everyone listening, hold on, I'll be right back with you. All right, that was Freddy Hernandez. He is a writer at Jalopnik, and as you heard, he is doing his own video thing. So please go check him out on YouTube. Check out the articles on Jalopnik. Give it a chance. I really like all this stuff. So if you like what I do here and me chit-chatting and talking about the mechanical stuff, you'll definitely like what he does. Go have a look. Check it out. As far as this show, make sure you tell a friend if you enjoy what you're hearing. I don't want to be, I know I said a little earlier, I don't want to be the guy telling you to spread the word to everyone, but if you enjoy this and you know someone who likes the automotive world, tell them to check it out. Maybe they'll enjoy it. Make sure you leave a review on iTunes if you like it. It really helps us out. You can follow me at Untitled Car Show on Twitter. You can follow the show's Instagram and Facebook, both at Untitled Car Show. You can follow our West Coast correspondent, Ryan West, at Ryanator122. And yeah, make sure you, just spread the word if you feel like it. If not, that's fine too. It's been great that we've been growing, and it's always fun to see the growth and where the downloads and the plays and all that's coming from. So it's been a real great thing. And we've entered the time of the year where I typically see the slump. I haven't seen the slump happen yet. So I really appreciate everyone who's listening and still spreading the word. So thanks everyone so much. Have a good night. Have a good evening, wherever you are, whatever time it is there. Thank you so much for listening. Please be safe out there.